I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar series of the Cybersecurity and Information Systems Information Analysis Center, CSIAC. Today's presentation is entitled Overview of the Software Assurance Marketplace, SWAMP, and SWAMP in a Box. My name is Steve Warzala. I am the CSIAC Outreach Manager. A few administrative notes. First, all phones have been muted except for the presenters. Questions may be asked at any time during the presentation by utilizing the chat function, and time permitting, your questions will be answered at the end of the session. Today's briefing slides will be posted on our website within a few days. Also, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our sponsor, the Defense Technical Information Center, DTIC. The funding that DTIC provides enables CSIAC to conduct these webinars. Before we begin today's briefing, I'd like to mention a related topic. Over the course of the past year, CSIAC has been collaborating with members of the DoD Software Assurance Community of Practice. In July, we published the CSIAC Journal, which focused on the design and development process for producing assured software. This journal is available online, and you can access this document at csiac.org. At the present time, we are in the midst of putting the final touches on the second volume of the journal, which will highlight various software assurance tools and testing techniques. With that, let's segue to today's webinar. We have a number of individuals with us today representing the software assurance marketplace, the SWAMP people, as I personally like to refer to them. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Myron Livney. He's the principal investigator and technical lead for the SWAMP. Dr. Livney is a professor of computer science at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the chief technology officer at Morgridge Institute for Research, and also the director of the Center for High Throughput Computing. And he'll be joining Dr. Livney today to conduct this webinar is Ms. Irene Landrum. She is an assistant project manager and will be informing us about the SWAMP in the Box. And Mike Peterson is a software lead, and he will be conducting a demo of the capabilities of the SWAMP in a Box. I will now turn the presentation over to Dr. Livney. Good afternoon, Myron. The floor is now yours.
Yeah, we are still in the morning, so good morning. But I'm sure that there is somebody who is in the afternoon. Thank you, Steve. And let me also add to the list here Professor Bart Miller, who also joined us. He is also a faculty at the Computer Sciences Department here at the UW-Madison, and he is serving as the chief scientist for the SWAMP. So whenever the question will get really tough, I'll pass them to Bart. So let me give you an overview of who we are and how we got to what we are doing. So first of all, let me point out that we are a group of 4 research institutions who came together in response to a BAA from the Department of Homeland Security with the objective of improving the quality of the software in terms of security that is deployed out there on all the growing number of devices. And this is important because we are a bunch of researchers. We are motivated by the vision that continuous assurance, which is a term that we coined, is critical to accomplish the goal of having better, more secure software out there. And we are here to act and to serve on behalf of the community. So as we are moving forward, please don't treat us as a vendor or as an organization that is coming in to make a sale. We are here to convince you that continuous assurance, namely do it early and do it often when it comes to software assurance, is the approach that you should follow. And what we are doing on our side is developing the software tool to enable you to do it. And all the software that we are developing is open source, freely available, and we also run a facility that provides access to these capabilities here in Madison. So the four organizations involved is the Mortgage Institute for Research, which is co-located at the UW campus. It is the Indiana University, where Von Welsh is in charge of the security of everything that we do. And Jim Basney at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign is in charge of our identity management, and I already mentioned Bart, who is our chief scientist. So the continuous assurance, as I said, is the idea of do it early and do it often, as they say on election day in Chicago. And our goal is to lower the barriers in bringing assurance into the software development life cycle and also into the supply chain cycle. And it's also aiming at tool developers who hopefully will use the continuous assurance framework that we are providing to improve the tools and to help those who deploy the tools to use them in a more effective way. We believe that offering a variety of tools and bringing in new tools and capabilities that show up are in the interest of the community. And while silos are useful to keep the grain, we don't want to break them, but we want to connect them and allow the community to use the different tools. So the marketplace is a shared facility that is accessible. Go create an account and start using it. But we, as you will hear later, we have also the in-the-box version of the facility that you can move and deploy locally. I already showed you some of this, the facility in terms of the the open capability and the swamp in the box. And the next step would be for Irene to guide you into what this wonderful box can do for you. But I will remind you again, if you are interested, if you have questions, if you have wishes, please keep us posted on all of this, and don't treat us as a vendor.
All right.
Irene.
All right. Thank you for the transition. So part of the SWAMP software that we offer, we try to support the CI/CD pipelines, and with that we have plugins for certain IDEs for CI tools as Jenkins, and then repositories such as Subversion and Git, and those are all available with the link there, and then also on GitHub as open source tools, and that just helps streamline the use of SWAMP and further reducing the barriers for developers to incorporate continuous assurance practices into their development cycle. Okay, so SWAMP in a Box is our local instance of SWAMP software. This came about from people who really wanted to utilize the SWAMP, but for various reasons could not upload their code to the SWAMP facility. So we decided to bring the SWAMP facility to them through SWAMP in a Box. And it is the Swamp Facility, the functionality in Swamp Facility and Swamp in a Box are the same. That way you have the Power of the Swamp on your own hardware behind your own firewall, and your code still does not have to leave your facility. There's certain customizations that we do support, such as you don't have to have all the platforms that we offer in the Swamp Facility on your Swamp in a Box. You can choose only the platforms you want, and then the tools that you want. And then we do offer some integrations with our Swamp in a Box and some commercial tools. Let's say you like a certain commercial tool, you have already purchased a license for that tool and we support it already, you will have the ability to integrate that current commercial tool into your Swamp in a Box. And like I stated, this offers you to run assessments on your code on your machine. So next slide. Sorry. There you go. All right. So this is just a general overview of Swamp in a Box. The nice smiley face is you, the developer. The dotted lines indicate things that may not are future functionality and are external. And then the green boxes indicate our plugins that we have for Swamp in a Box, and then our identity management offering is the blue box. So you can see in the center we have our Swamp in a Box platform, and the Swamp in a Box platform has certain components in it, such as HT Condor backend, which handles a lot of our scheduling and allows for flexibility within the backend and just help in managing resources. And then you see a license server. That is for if you had a commercial tool, you would need to set up your own license server, or if you had a pre-existing license server, you could connect it into the back end. And then and then your compute resources is what you have your Swamp in a Box running on. And then with that, we have the web front end and our API. So you can interact with the Swamp via an API if you choose. There's also a command line tool on GitHub. And then let's say you have LDAP already set up, or you're in Active Directory. You can take your current LDAP and your Active Directory and integrate it in with Swamp in a Box. That way you don't have to set up a new account or like another username password you have to remember, and it allows you control over who has access to your Swamp in a Box as well. All right, we'll go on. All right, so system requirements, these are just general. So, at a minimum, we have our minimum requirements there, and then we have our recommended. And each VM that you run, depending on the size of your software package, it could take 4 gigabytes up to 8 gigabytes. It really depends on the size of the software package that you're assessing. And so 4 cores will, the minimum requirements there will allow you to at least run 2 VMs simultaneously, and the recommended allows you more. And then you can increase that at any point in time and to get more VMs running simultaneously. And we say VMs because what we do is every time you kick off an assessment, we start a new virtual machine. And as soon as your assessment is finished, that virtual machine goes away, allowing, I'm sorry, I'll retract that, repeat. So the virtual machine goes away, and then that gives you another VM to start. Our operating systems, we recommend CentOS 6 or 7. We've had people run Swamp in a Box on RHEL 7, and we just have not tested our system on RHEL, but it works the same. The CentOS and RHEL are similar, so that capability is there. All right. So right now we offer static analysis tools. Further down the pipeline, we will be adding dynamic analysis. You can configure so you can receive email notifications when an assessment finishes if you're not using a plugin. And I say if you're not using a plugin because in the plugin you'll get the results back let's say you're using Eclipse, the results will come back to you in Eclipse. That way you don't have to leave Eclipse. You can kick off an assessment with one button in Eclipse and get the results back and make changes in the code. But let's say you didn't do that, you can configure your Swamp in a Box to email you when the assessment finishes, allowing you to go work on other things while that's running. You can also schedule an assessment let's say you have a version that you uploaded or you pulled something from Git, you can schedule that to run at a certain day, time. And then we have projects in the Swamp. Everything's kind of based around a project. So let's say you have a team of developers working on one code base. All of those developers on that single code base can be in a project. So then that way they can see who's run an assessment, what were the results from the assessment, and where people are at with their tasks for that project. We offer two results viewer, a native viewer, which is an HTML output, and then a third-party integrated results viewer called CodeDX. CodeDX allows you to take multiple results. Let's say you used 5 tools. You can take the results from all 5 tools and view them in CodeDX, and there's comparisons, and they do some severity ranking. And then, like I stated previously, the identity management piece, we offer support for LDAP and Active Directory. So future functionality, we have some additional commercial tools in the pipeline. Some will be limited to our Swamp facility. Most are offered in both. Our integration in Swamp in a Box is offered, and then access for open source developers and educators is offered in the Swamp facility. More development on an API, and then just overall improvements to our Swamp in a Box and dynamic analysis. At this time, I'm going to transition over to Mike, and he's going to actually run through a demonstration of Swamp.
All right. I'm going to go through a demonstration of how to upload a package of code to the Swamp and run assessments for it and view the results that you get back from the analysis by assessment tools. I'm demonstrating in the facility, which is at www.mirswamp.org. It is essentially the same as what you would have if you installed a Swamp in a Box on your own hardware. One thing I'm going to point out is the resources page, which you can access from the top here by clicking resources. This gives us a list of the tools that are available, and you can see the languages that the tools are for. We have a lot of open source tools and then a number of commercial tools. And it also shows the platforms that are available for C, C++ assessments. And we have a variety of Linux flavors and versions. So the first thing you need to do in order to use the Swamp is upload a package. A package is basically a compressed archive or an uncompressed archive of your code and what it needs to build your code, or at least compile your code. When you're done uploading your package, the Swamp will have that archive that you upload and data that you submit that tells the Swamp how to build and or compile your code so that we can get things ready for running the assessment tools on them. All of that will happen in the VM. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a new package. I'm going to add a small package called Commander C. I'll make a copy of it. And I can upload from my file system just by selecting a file, or we can also do a clone of a Git repository and copy over a package of an archive of the Git clone. I'll choose a file and go on to the next page. The Swamp has behind the scenes taken a look at the files within that archive and determined that it is probably a C, C++ language based on file types. That is correct. If it wasn't, I can change it. We offer Java, Python, Ruby, and a bunch of web scripting, XML, HTML, JavaScript, PHP. And I can also determine the package, where within the package I want things to start for building, and this is correct. So I'll go to the next tab. This is where we give information about how to build your package. It has found the make file, so it is guessing that the build system is make, and that is actually correct. I don't need to do anything else here. But if I had configure options, I could set up a configure command. If I have a different builds command, I can set up the build command. If I'm using CMake or configure plus make, I can pick those. And if all I have is code and I don't have a build system, I can pick no build, and it will compile whatever files it can find and run the tools on whatever compiles. Yes, in the directory that you picked on the previous screen non-recursively. So this is correct. It's going to be make, and you can see down at the bottom here, this is the build script that we're basically going to run in the VM to get your package built. And I'll save my package. And now the package is uploaded to the Swamp, and the information that I've entered about how to build it is up there. And now I can go ahead and run assessments. I can do that from this page here, or I can go to the assessment page. I'll just click here. The package is already selected. The tools we have available for C, we have public tools and a couple of commercial tools. So we got Clang, CPP Check, GCC, and then Grammatech Code Sonar and Parasoft C++ test. I'm going to run all of them, and I'll select a platform. We'll just use CentOS, and I can click Save and Run, and we are now queuing up 5 assessment runs, each of which is going to run in a separate VM. The VM is going to copy in your code, copy in the tools that it needs, build your code, and then hand over the files that are built to the assessment tool for analysis. When analysis is done, the results will be converted to a SCARF format. That's a format that we've come up with, which is sort of a cross-tool common way of compiling results, and it's in an XML file. You'll be able to download that XML file. Well, I'll show you. These are running. These will take a few minutes to run, but we already have a cake in the oven. I ran some of these earlier today, and we can see the results are back here. If I want to download a SCARF file, I can click on the bug button that shows how many weaknesses were found by each tool. Or I can view these one or more at a time in the native viewer. The native viewer is basically just a page showing showing the weaknesses in a list. It's not very fancy, but it can be used. Oh, I didn't select native viewer. So here's the native viewer. It's just a simple list showing the files and the line and the message from the tool about what the problem is. We can also view things in CodeDX, either all of the tools or individual tools. And CodeDX for Swamp in a Box is an add-on. You can get the code file from CodeDX and then run a script, and it'll be added to your Swamp in a Box. Or it's available in MirSwamp. When you use CodeDX, we're actually going to run a VM with CodeDX and CodeDX's web server in it and connect you to that via proxy. So you'll be working in a CodeDX version that is in a VM that is specific to your project. So I'll send those to CodeDX here. And here's the latest analysis run, which I just uploaded. here are the tools that it got results from and severity rankings, and I can see them all here with the location in the files. And if I drill down into an individual weakness, CodeDX will show me information about that weakness and show me where it appears in the code. So that concludes the demo of uploading a package, running assessments, and viewing results.
Okay, thanks for the demonstration. That was it was informative, interesting, and we do have a few questions that came in from our attendees. So let me throw them out to the presenters and see if we can get some answers to the questions. So the first question was, does the continuous assurance platform anticipate rapid development environments such as Agile, and what orchestration is there between the continuous assurance and rapid development approaches? Can somebody comment on that question?
Yeah, this is Bart Miller. I mean, the short answer is yes. I mean, what we're trying to encourage you to do is do assurance frequently on a very fine grain. And the whole notion of Agile is doing these incremental development steps, merging them in and releasing them quickly. And what we'd like you to see you do is with every one of those development steps, whether it's every commit or nightly build and test, whatever granularity you want, we'd like to see you launch tools off. And the nice thing about the Swamp is you can make that happen really seamlessly. If you're sitting in a CI tool like Jenkins, which helps you support this quick development, every time you do a Jenkins cycle, if you use our plugin, you will launch a Swamp assessment, and you will get the results back and see that. So without doing anything new, you're launching assessments, and so you're seeing those results painlessly. And quite honestly, whether you're using Swamp or not, you should be doing this. You should be running your assessments on this granularity. We just want to make it a no-brainer. If you're using an IDE like Eclipse, we have a Swamp button. If the plugin is there, which you can get from our website or you can get from the Eclipse store, you just push one button and it launches that. So you've done your build, you've done some local testing. You just hit the Swamp button. Now let's see what kind of weaknesses it found in the code. Same with if you're a Git or a Subversion user. You can use one of the plugins there, and every time you do a commit, if our plugin's there, you'll fire off an assessment to the Swamp. It just becomes part. The goal is to take these hopefully rapid incremental cycles that you're using and put the assessment into there in a painless way that doesn't cause the developer any grief.
Okay, thanks, Bart. Yeah, I mean that. It sounds like you've kind of simplified the process as much as possible. Kind of the one button approach, and trying to get the folks to check their code and as often as possible, and get the kinks out early. So.
Right. Well, even if you think about Jenkins, it's a no button approach. Yeah. You do a cycle in Jenkins anyways. And the same with Git and Subversion. You do a commit, you're doing a commit anyways, and magically it goes to the Swamp, and the results are there for you.
Yeah, and the back end of the Swamp has the ability to schedule all these requests that may be non-trivial in terms of the computing resources, or may come from many of these cycles, or running on many platforms. We have here in-house a software that we develop that every time there is a commit, we are running a build and test on, 17 platforms. So, and the other advantage is that since we are packaging everything into a VM, there is full isolation of the assessment building of the software from the rest of the environment, and that allows you to bring in a third-party software and run it in a clean environment. The reason why we have what looks a little bit heavyweight in the background with the virtual machine is we build a facility that protects privacy, and in our shared facility, and that it comes out with the Swamp in the Box as well.
Okay, thanks, Meron. So did I understand? So every time the individual does the commit, then the Swamp then automatically schedules and does the assessment process. Did I understand that correctly?
If you've installed the Git or SVN plugin, every time you do a commit, that will fire off. You can actually say which Git events or Subversion event you want, but basically is every time you do a commit, it will launch an assessment to your Swamp, whether it's the Swamp facility or your Swamp in the Box. It's the same thing.
And we are open to add other triggers. So if, among the potential adopters of the Swamp, they have other events that may trigger an assessment, that would be an easy add-on for us because we have the APIs, we have the scheduling capabilities, and all we need is a plugin to detect the event and get the work done.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we had another question. It's regarding the commercial software, and it says, when integrated with commercial software, is there any, issues or concerns with reliability using those kind of packages?
From our point of view, a tool is a tool. Commercial tools have the interesting characteristic, and most of them have licenses and license servers, which we support. We have the infrastructure for supporting that inside the Swamp and Swamp in the Box. The commercial tools tend to be pretty robust and reliable, as do the open source tools. So basically, if there's a particular open source tool that you commercial tool that you like, and it's available in the Swamp, and that's a growing set, you just include it like any other tool. The assessments run like all the assessments do in a virtual machine, well isolated. We parse the results from all the tools into our standard format SCARF, and it all comes up unified in one of our native CodeDX result viewer. If you're using the CodeDX viewer, you can be looking at the results from multiple tools side by side simultaneously, including open source and commercial tools. And of course, those people active in software assurance, are always conscious of the fact that no one tool gives you everything you need. So we're always recommending using multiple tools.
So it depends on which version of the Swamp or which instance of the Swamp you are using. If it is the public facility, then we have arrangement with some of the commercial vendors to provide access, and that is mainly for open source, education, non-commercial usage. Whereas if we have the Swamp in the Box that you deploy locally, then our model is to interface with your local license manager and then use whatever licenses you have to run the tools. Now, we have a set of commercial tools that we are supporting, but our architecture allows us to add tools as needed. Some of it requires some real work to make sure that all the hooks are in place, but we have done it so many times that we are pretty good at this. So we can add commercial tools if they are available locally, even though they are not part of the public facility.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, I appreciate the the answer to that question, because it actually took care of another. I wanted to clarify the license issue, especially with the utilizing the commercial tools, and you did clarify the difference, whether you're using it on the swamp for kind of educational purposes versus running a swamp in the box on your own facility. So you did take care of one of my questions, so appreciate that as well. So.
Let me add here is that we believe that with the swamp we are helping the community to evolve in new directions, as the commercial providers are trying to figure out how to work best with us. On one hand, to be part of the open facility, it's an opportunity to expose their tools to a broader community. We are using it in classrooms, in training, and things like this. At the same time, they want to make sure that they maintain their revenue, and that sometimes is not 100% aligned with their desire to lock users in to a certain silo of software. On the other hand, we see several of our Swamp in a Box users that actually like to operate in an open source, flexible environment with a variety of tools, rather than to be in a way committed to a single vendor in a single silo.
You can think of this as another form of agility. You'd like to be able to change tools when the need or interest motivates you, and so we want to make sure that when you want to try a different tool, it's just a matter of clicking a different checkbox, rather than worrying about a different installation and a whole different workflow for your team.
That's great, because I think the interactions we're seeing with a lot of the government folks, they do want to get away from this situation, where in the past, they've been locked in to certain systems, maybe tied to certain vendors, and they haven't had the flexibility to go in and modify the system, maybe easily add in new capabilities. And so there definitely is more of this, kind of moving to a framework where you can kind of modularize and plug in kind of the plug and play. So it sounds like you're definitely in line, in step with the desires of some of our government customers. So that's a good thing to hear. So
and that was also part of the reason why I stressed at the beginning that we are academic institutions, and we are committed to the open source and the long-term mission, rather than a short-term let's turn it into a startup and escape from our long-term involvement in it. If you look at the biography of the group that is behind it, Bart Miller, who is called the father of fuzzing, has been doing this for way too long. And some of us have been doing distributed computing also for way too long. But that's where we are, and that's where our passion is, and that's an opportunity with also an organization like yours that is bringing this capability and information to the broader community, is to team up and to make a difference, because that's the reason why we are doing it.
Well, yeah, and that's like you say, we're here to provide a service. We're trying to help the government be more efficient and effective, and the producing software that does what it's supposed to do is a big problem. It's one of the big cost drivers, especially in the DoD, and it's an important issue, and we're just trying to get the best information and out there to help folks produce correct software. So we're all kind of in this together. So so we had another question come in on in particular regarding static analysis tools. Says most are often open source. This one is referring to a particular tool called Parasoft. They think it's kind of leaning towards a commercial tool, and they're wondering if you're using a subset of the Parasoft's capabilities. Any comments on that?
So Parasoft produces C-Test and J-Test, and we have both of those in the SWAMP. And for open source and educational users, the tool is available to use with full capabilities, as far as I understand. And in the SWAMP in the Box, it's available in a bring your own license model. So if you acquire a license, then you have that available as just another tool to check off in your box, as you would with any other tool in the SWAMP.
And Parasoft also produces a lot of other tools that aren't static analysis, and we don't support that part of the Parasoft suite.
Right. This is just the static. That's Jim Kupch, one of senior analysts on the UW side of the project. Right. So currently we're supporting static analysis capabilities. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Appreciate that. So this is kind of an interesting question. One of the attendees is interested if the SWAMP tools are being used on the code that actually implements the SWAMP system. Have you used the SWAMP tools on your own SWAMP code?
So the answer to the question is, if we support it and it's our own code, it gets run through the SWAMP. So we run our own code through.
We eat our own dog food or pack our own parachutes, depending upon how crappy you want to be.
You want to pack your own parachute.
The answer is.
And go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
We are also using it in our training activities. So we are also willing to stand in front of a class and say, use this software. and so it's not only using it in the software development part, but also willing to stand next to a group of students in, Bart Miller has been very active in training. He has a program for secure coding, and he takes it on the road and is willing to say, this is our system and this is our software. And obviously, it's not perfect, but it's good enough that he doesn't get too many tomatoes.
Right. We've run the training at conferences, the O'Reilly conferences, and some of the assurance forums, other conferences, workshops. We've taught it at government agencies, like we were at FAA, Technical Center teaching. We teach it at companies, and so we concentrate on the software issues like secure software development and the use of tools, and we have live hands-on. We have nice hands-on sessions with tools and using the SWAMP. So if that's an interest. We're happy to show up. And we're also building an online curriculum to go along with this, and that's in development right now.
Okay, great. Thanks for answering that. Let's see. We had a question. Folks were wondering if the DoD ATNL organization is if this is being evaluated by that organization as a means to standardize the software assurance implementation process. Do you know if any, if you have folks from the DoD utilizing this facility?
We have not talked with them. We've talked with individual groups in DoD and Intel, but we have not talked to the technology and logistics folks.
Acquisition technology.
And so we're happy to talk with them. DoD is a big organization. We don't always know who we should be talking to inside of DoD.
Yeah.
So if there's somebody out there,
we are lost in the acronyms, right?
Yeah, if somebody's out there in some branch or central part of DoD and is interested, we're happy to have the conversations with you and see, because those often help us motivate us to support new functionality, new directions. So it's valuable for us as well.
Okay, great. We'll see if we can help facilitate some interactions there, and maybe get those folks more involved with your activity as well. So, I guess there was a question about.
One side comment. I'm sorry. Just one quick comment. Up until over a year ago, before we released Swamp in a Box, a lot of defense users, obviously could not use the Swamp facility. You can't toss your software over the fence, and so with Swamp in a Box, the discussion's changed quite a bit now.
Okay, so Swamp in the Box then is a more relatively new development then, that capability didn't exist at the beginning then.
Correct. The vision, if you read the BAA, if that's what you like to do before going to bed, then it was just a facility, actually mainly a research facility, and the Swamp in the Box. We start really working on it, let's say, a little bit over a year ago, and we made it available for friendly users about half a year ago, and we have several installation of it now in commercial sites and some of them in evaluation at government agencies. So we are all moving in the box direction. You can imagine that taking a body of software that was designed to be in a single facility and making it a shrink wrap took some adjustment, but I believe that we are in pretty good shape in terms of making it easy to download and dealing with all the question of version control and updating and packaging it so you can install it on your new iPhone X. So you can do software assurance in 3D and virtual reality.
Okay. See, I'm gonna kind of combine a couple of questions together. So Swamp is a DHS program. So are you still currently being funded by DHS? To develop the Swamp capability, and then two. So what is the long-term vision of for maintaining supporting the Swamp and Swamp in the Box? So where are we in that in those categories?
Yeah. So we are at the end of year 5. And at the moment, we are a one-year extension. As the swamp is part of the long-term vision of the Science and Technology Division of DHS. I was just attending a meeting in Boston yesterday morning about DevOps and security, and our program manager gave a keynote there, and it's clear that the swamp is part of their long-term plans of their STEMP program also, which is the modernization of the software assurance tool. But I assume all of you know that when we deal with the government, it's very hard to get long-term definite statements when it comes to funding. What I will add is that the group behind it has the history of doing things for many, many years in terms of maintaining and developing and supporting software. So we are committed and will do our best not to drop it as we are moving forward. But in terms of DHS, at the moment it is another year, and you may want to talk to them directly to get a longer-term answer.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. No, we all, we all live in that world, so we all know the situation with government funding. So we're all doing that dance. So, but well, we do have, we did get a number of folks, volunteer for possible contacts. So we're gathering up some military service organization contacts, and we'll get that info and provide that to you, so you can reach out to some of those folks and see if there may be some relationships you can establish with folks in that world. So
would it be useful to keep you posted on the follow-up, so you have a feeling for how this thing evolves?
Yeah, I think it would. I think this is an area that's directly relevant to to the CSIAC community. We have four main technology domains that we're responsible for. Software engineering is one of them, and cybersecurity is another. So the assured software kind of fits, two of our big main areas of concern. So I think this is, I think this is something we do want to, keep in contact and, share the information with, folks that are interested in producing good, reliable software that does what it's supposed to do and it doesn't do anything else. So.
Okay.
Well, so I think we're kind of near the end of our time. So to the presenters, is there any last minute question, thoughts, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up and conclude today's webinar?
Two quick comments from me. One is, if we didn't get to your questions, please feel free to contact us directly, and we'll try to answer you folks. We know this is kind of restricted format, and we don't want to ignore anybody. So do get in touch with us. And second, even if you don't want to use a swamp, get these tools into your workflow. We're happy to help you do that, make it easier, but our mission is to get the technologies adopted, not sell you software. So, and if we can help advise with any of that, we're happy to do that too. We like to be a neutral source for this kind of thing.
As long as you do it early and you do it often.
Exactly. Good closing words.
That's good advice. That's good advice. So, I do want to thank the folks that have at the Swamp, the Software Assurance Marketplace. Thank you for taking the time, sharing this information with us and the facility you've put together. I think it's a extremely valuable asset to the community, and we wanted to get the word out there, make folks aware of it. Hopefully, they can take advantage of it and have them benefit from the capability that you've created. So once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
And thank you, Steve, and the folks at CSIAC for enabling this.
All right. Well, I guess we'll finish up there. And once again, thanks everybody, and have a great day. And we'll see you somewhere down the road. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.